Hey there Blue Mages, Liam here, and welcome back to Blue Academy. Today, I'm going to cover one of the most requested topics, and that is the best in slot gear for Blue Mage. I'm going to cover two sets of gear, my DPS set, and then also my tank and healer set. Now if you don't care why I take these sets, you can just click the links in the descriptions and you'll see exactly what I do take. But if you do care, then stick around and I will explain why I take each set. So before I go into great detail about the specific sets that I use, I just want to give a disclaimer that you can use just the Shire gear, the Augmented Shire gear, and you should be able to clear just about any content as a Blue Mage. And this gear is really easy to get. And in fact, for our BIS sets, we actually will be using a lot of this anyway. So you just have to get your Tomestones of Poetics, come and talk to Hismina, you can buy your stuff. If you go under Other, she also has the Gob Dip, Gob Twine, and Gob Coat, which lets you augment the items. And then you just take those and run down here and you talk to this person here, Seika, and she will let you augment the gear. Now if you just get that, the eye level 270 gear, as well as any of the Blue Mage specific stuff like Mask of Azure or the Wallaki stuff, that is more than sufficient for basically all content as a Blue Mage. So if you don't care about min-maxing beyond that, you can just do that and you'll be pretty fine. Okay, so let's talk about the DPS set first. When we're under Mimicry DPS, we gain 20% crit and 20% direct hit. Now for pretty much every single class, those are our main stats anyway, because those give us the best DPS. And it's the same with Blue Mage, especially since we get this additional bonus. So that's what we're going to be aiming for. We're going to optimize for crit and direct hit. And luckily for us, the DPS set is pretty easy to acquire. So first we have Incendiario. This is one of 4 Blue Mage weapons that's available to us, and it has materia slots, where the other ones don't. So this is the only one we're going to take, and we're going to put in 2 critical hit materia. Mask of Azure is a Blue Mage helm that we get from the Blue Mage vendor. And again, we're just going to slot the materia in here. We cannot slot crit in here or it's wasted, so we slot in direct hit. Next we have the Augmented Shire Philosopher's Coat, and this is simply just from Shire, and we pop the materia in there. We have Alexandrian Gloves of Casting, as well as Alexandrian Boots of Casting, and we get these from Alexander, the Breath of the Creator Savage, or A10S. Now these can be run pretty easily unsynced at 80, so you can just run in there and farm that gear pretty easily. People are regularly farming them for glam or light for relic weapons, so it's not too hard to get groups for that. Next up we have Augmented Shire Philosopher's Belt, again a Shire item. Augmented Shire Philosopher's Hose. Augmented Shire Philosopher's Earring. So more Shire gear, as well as the Augmented Shire Philosopher's Ring. Our remaining items are the Wallaki Choker, the Wallaki Bracelet, and then finally Alexandrian Ring of Casting. Now these Wallaki items come from our Blue Mage vendor, and they have good stats. Its crit and direct hit are the primary and secondary. And then Alexandrian Ring of Casting is what we were going to use here for our DPS set. And this comes from a 9S, Alexander the Eyes of the Creator Savage. And again, you can just run into Party Finder and see if anyone's doing it for glam or light farm, or you can put up your own group and farm them. Pretty easy. So if we have all this gear and we use food, and in my case I like to use Espresso Campana because that gives us crit and direct hit, we'll end up with 1280 crit, 950 direct hit. And this is going to be the most that we can get for our DPS set. Now some folks likes to use the Kukuru Rusk, and that one will give you a little bit more crit, but it does not give you the direct hit. So this would give you 10% crit and then 10% spell speed as the secondary. It really doesn't make a huge difference which one you take. I personally prefer the Espresso Campana for the crit and direct hit, but I do know some folks prefer the Kukuru Rusk for maximizing their crit. Okay, so in particular for the tank and the healer sets, there's a lot of disagreement in the community about what is optimal. Now, what I'm saying is not necessarily gospel, but I will present some numbers for why I go with this setup. So in general, it's pretty agreed upon that spell speed is going to be the best for tanks no matter what, and that's just because of the Diamondback timing. But for healers, it's a little bit less clear about if spell speed is best or if crit is best, and then what the secondary stat should be. So I go with spell speed and determination. And the reason for that is we basically get more healing per second and it's more smooth. Some folks might like the crit because they can get the big crits, which maybe seems like it's more healing over time, but it turns out that smoothed over a long fight, it is actually going to be less healing. And on top of that, we're not going to get the scaling on things like Gobskin, where we cannot crit with that, and we need determination for that. So, if we look at our numbers here, I did some basic napkin math here, just in Google Sheets. I set up the sets. This is all using formulas found on Auk Morning. The math wizards over there are really good at what they do, so I just took those formula and I just put these numbers in. If we have our spell speed and determination, crit, direct hit, and crit spell speed setups, then this is the numbers that we see. And you can see here, we get the sort of expected values. We see our 2.13 GCD for our spell speed and determination, 2.48, 2.37, etc. Just putting all of these into one big number, or one big formula rather, and using a potency of 500, which is our palm here. Our effective healing potency per second with our spell speed and determination setup is 259 versus 242 for our crit and direct hit, and 252 for crit and spell speed. This isn't really a huge difference. It would take, about 15 spell casts to equal one spell cast gained from using the spell speed and determination over the crit and direct hit. And if we look at this graph here, where I've graphed these formula, and basically I sort of cheated on this graph a little bit. I didn't actually consider the determination at all, just because it makes it a little bit more confusing. But this is y equals x, where y is our healing potency per second and x is our spell speed. You can see if we increase the spell speed, decrease our crit, with no changes to determination at all, we are still seeing that effective healing increase. And if we add the determination in, that actually just becomes even more extreme. So looking at these numbers, we can see that spell speed and determination is going to be more consistent and more reliable, and just give us more healing overall. That being said, it doesn't really make a huge difference, so you could still totally get by with just your DPS set as a healer. Really depends on if you want to min-max or not. I do strongly recommend doing the spell speed and determination build. It just feels way better to be able to cast those palm cures way faster, keep your Gobskin up, have a stronger Gobskin and all that. But it's really not going to make or break a fight necessarily. So for this set, our items are going to be Incendiario again, with the spell speed materia slotted in, Augmented Shire Philosopher's Hat, Alexandrian Coat of Casting, and this comes from A12S, the Soul of the Creator Savage. And again, you can just run in unsynced. A lot of people farm this frequently for the mount, glam, light, etc. Augmented Shire Philosopher's Gloves, Alexandrian Belt of Casting, and this comes from A9S, the Eyes of the Creator. Alexandrian Bottoms of Casting. This comes from A11S. This one's a little bit tougher to run in a pug, but you can do it pretty easily if you have a full group. You can cheese the mechanics by just DPSing through them. Augmented Shire Philosopher's Thigh Boots. Proto-Ultima Earrings of Casting. Proto-Ultima Necklace of Casting. And Proto-Ultima Ring of Casting, which all come from the Dunscaith Weekly. And what that is you come and you talk to Slip Slicks here in Shire. Basically just, you have to run Dunscaith. This gives you the Proto-Ultima Heat Shielding, which then you turn into Slim Fix, and you can get whichever thing you need here. So, takes you 3 weeks to get these 3 items, but it's pretty easy. It's just one Dunscaith run in order to do so. We also grab Augmented Shire Philosopher's Bracelets and Augmented Shire Philosopher's Ring. So overall, it's pretty easy. So the food we take is going to be this, the Mushroom Skewer, which conveniently has spell speed primary, determination secondary, so we don't have to make a decision like we did for DPS between Espresso Campana and Kukuru Rusk. You just take Mushroom Skewer and we're good to go. And when we have this up, we have 1311 spell speed, and this is super, super nice, especially for a tank. If we look at Diamondback, our cast time is 1.71 seconds. Compared to the 2.5 for the standard Diamondback, this is way faster, and this allows us to more easily meet those timings for the tank busters on any raid content. I've raided as a tank both with and without the spell speed, and it just feels awful going back to the no spell speed setup once you've gotten used to this. So definitely recommend that. And then also as a healer, just being able to pump these palm cures is way better. So that's it for our gear. If you use the sets that I presented, you'll be pretty set for any of the roles that you want to play. If you stuck through to the end, especially through the dense math part, then congrats. Hopefully you found all of this useful. Now, do I think this is going to end the discussion and folks coming into various discords and saying, what's my BIS? What's the best in slot? What should I be using as a blue mage? What's the best gear? Etc.? No, not a chance. People are still going to be coming in. They're not going to bother to do any searching, but hopefully I can at least link this video to people and it'll be a little bit helpful. I do recommend at the very least grabbing your Augmented Shire gear if you don't care enough to get the truly optimal gear. Even just for things like doing the Mass Carnival, it makes things way easier. But min-maxing just feels much nicer on the actual Savage fights if you get to that point. I hope you found the video useful, and good luck stinging!